Welcome to Sundays with Sandy, a new segment on Last First Date Radio where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. I'm your host, Sandy Weiner. I'm a dating and relationship coach, a communications and boundaries expert, and I want you to go on your last first date. The age-old question, who pays on the first date? Well, the answer has changed so much over the years, and it's time to revisit this issue once again. It depends on many things: age, income level, gender of the daters, who initiated the date, and when splitting the cost of a date might make sense. So let's dive in. Who pays on the first date depends on, did you initiate the date? That's the first thing we're going to cover. Generally, the person who invited you on the date is expected to cover the cost. While it's not always the case, if you do initiate a date, make sure it's within your means to pay the entire bill. However, if you are the person who was asked out, don't assume that your date is going to pick up the tab. While most women feel it's the right thing to do when a man pays, if you're a woman, be prepared to pay your half in case he asks you to split the tab. And to avoid misunderstandings, pay attention to the words your date used when he did ask you out. If he said, "I want to take you out," that implies that he's probably paying. Some men will even say, "You pick the restaurant and I'll pay," and that makes it very clear. It's always nice when that happens. If he says, "Are you available to hang out or meet up on Tuesday after work?" it's more likely that he's going to only pay his share. A good way to avoid misunderstandings is to listen closely to the exact wording of the invitation, or even ask, "Is this a date?" I remember a woman who went out with a guy who she had known for a very long time. He had just lost his wife and they were developing a relationship. She had been friendly with his wife. And they went out to eat. I think they went out for sushi. And at the end of the date, she said, "Is this a date?" She really didn't know. She didn't know if he was just being friendly. And he was like, "Yeah, this is a date." And guess what? They got married. So here's my tip. When the bill comes, I recommend you use this wording. Do you need help with that? And I've said this many times, but the wording is important as it implies that a man might need your help. And most men will say, "No, I got this, but thanks for offering." If you don't want to split the bill, don't offer to split the bill. Wait and see how he responds to your question about whether he needs help. When should you split the bill? Many people dating today expect to split the cost of the date or alternate paying for dates, especially with Gen Z and younger generations. There's more equity than there ever was in dating. And if you keep the first few dates at a low cost, like coffee or ice cream or smoothies, it is easier to split the cost or alternate who pays. As you continue to date and or dates get more expensive, then it's time to speak with your date about who pays and when you will split the cost of those dates. And here's my tip. Women who are 50 and over tend to offer to pay half and then resent the man for accepting their offer. That's what I have seen many times in my coaching practice. So ladies, if you don't want to be disappointed by a man accepting your offer, do not offer. Tell your date that you appreciate when he pays, that it makes you feel cared for. Tell him what it means to you. And if and when you're in a relationship, then things become more equitable across the board usually. You split costs, you split chores, you split lots of things. And that's the time to have a longer conversation about money and splitting costs. Now let's talk about income disparities. What if there are disparities in your income? If there's a big income gap between the two of you, most people expect that the person with more money will pick up the bill most of the time. If you want a more equitable experience, then find activities you can both afford, like picnics, hikes, bike rides, car rides. I have known many couples with income disparities who have figured out a way around who pays. So for example, when they travel, they've been in a relationship for a while, she'll pay for the flights or something that's more expensive because she has more money, and he will pay for the restaurants, he'll use points for the hotels. Whatever you decide is something that's up to the two of you. In conclusion, Who pays on a first date is a complex issue, and it varies from person to person. Decide what you're comfortable with when it comes to paying on a date. Don't feel that if the other person pays, you owe them something. This is something that drives me crazy. This is not transactional. Whether it's picking up the next tab or sleeping with them, dating is not about transaction. I mean, a lot of people will argue that it is, but just because somebody pays for you doesn't mean you owe them sex. Doesn't mean you owe them a kiss at the end of the night. If you don't like them, you don't go out with them again. You don't owe them anything. Here are some potential issues that come up with who pays on a first date. Number one, if you offer to pay half, your date might assume that you're friend zoning them. This happens a lot. And sometimes people pick up the tab and it's because they never want to see them again, but not always. And number two, if you pick up the tab at an expensive first date, the man might feel emasculated. There was a 35-year-old man who felt humiliated when his date slipped the waiter her credit card on her way to the restroom. Although they both earned a very good living, they were both in similar fields and earned upwards of $140,000 a year. When she covered the $190 tab, yes, it's high, they had drinks, he felt emasculated. And this happened on Sopranos too, when Tony Soprano's daughter's boyfriend is going out to dinner at a restaurant with the family for the first time. He covers the tab when he goes up to use the restroom. And Tony Soprano gets so angry at him, he starts yelling at him. When you're with this family, I cover the bill. That's my job. And so it's a similar feeling, like this is my job. I think so many of us were hardwired to believe a man pays and this is his job. But a lot of men don't feel that way. So to avoid misunderstandings about who pays on the first date, get clear about what works for you and why. And remember that your date might view money very differently from you. So paying or not paying doesn't necessarily indicate how much they like you. Dating is supposed to be fun, so if your date treats you to a nice meal, enjoy it. And you can always pick up the tip, pay for the valet or drinks or dessert, or pick up the tab next time. What are your thoughts on who pays for a first date? If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application. That's lastfirstdate.com/application. I look forward to talking to you soon.